Thank you all for your patience with us. We appreciate this time. We have Dr. Jasmine Robinson and Dr. Justin Kelly. I'm Jaquon Robinson. And we're gonna have an insightful time talking about some strategies that doctors like you all can use to leverage income and assets to invest in real estate, whether that be residential or commercial. And Leanne and Zena, do you all mind coming off mute and telling us what's your role in the medical field, or whether or not you work in the medical field or not? Okay. Well, no worries, guys. If y'all okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Can y'all see my screen?
You can put a thumbs up in the chat. I may take a break from waiting.
Okay.
You want to wait for a response or just keep going?
Shoot them in the chat. Can you send a message? I'll send them a message and make sure they can hear, or if they're trying to unmute. So Justin, how's business been?
It's been good. I'm not even going to downplay it. It's been good. You know, commercial is one of those. It's definitely a longer game from what I'm seeing. It's gotta just manage those expectations.
Sure.
I'm probably being a little modest, but I mean, we're getting some traction right now, especially in healthcare, because it's not bad.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So the name of this presentation, Zena and Leanne, is Prescriptions for Prosperity. And we're here to discuss building passive income and wealth through real estate. So tonight our agenda, will be, we're gonna discuss why you should invest in real estate or consider it at the very least. We'll discuss some trends and data-driven insights. We have some specific mortgage options and programs that are tailored to healthcare professionals. We'll discuss some examples of leveraging assets and ways you can build a real estate portfolio. We'll review how real estate can secure your retirement using some specific scenarios. We'll talk real estate versus traditional investments. We'll talk tax advantages and wealth preservations, and then some passive income strategies for busy professionals. So to introduce ourselves, like I said, I'm Jaquon, and my wife is Dr. Jasmine Robinson. We're both licensed realtors with the National Association of Realtors. Our background, I am a former collegiate coach. My wife is a pharmacist, a PharmD. We've been blessed to be a top producer husband and wife team that serves the Metro Atlanta and Montgomery, Alabama areas. And Justin, you want to introduce yourself? Excuse me.
Yeah, Dr. Phillip Kelly, got into real estate, specifically in the commercial world, about 3 years ago, specializing in healthcare, working with healthcare owners and users who are looking to buy real estate, whether they're looking to purchase the investment property or looking to possibly lease property or possibly expand, all throughout the Southeast, primarily in Georgia, but throughout the Southeast. So here to help clients and help, build wealth and also build business.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm very interested to hear um, about that leasing piece this evening. So I'm excited for sure.
Yes.
Uh, so we're gonna start off talking some numbers, historically. We're talking about market trends. There's a lot of information that you may hear on a day-to-day basis in the news about what real estate is doing at a specific time, but it's important to understand that real estate is an industry where values have shown consistent long-term appreciation, um, even during economic downturns. Now, there have been some market dips, i.e., the Great Recession of 2008, but 98% of the time during economic downturns, real estate will remain resilient. And in those times where the market may be quote unquote down, it still presents some ideal opportunities to gain some quality properties at a heavily discounted rate. Real estate provides a tangible income generating asset. And where we are right now in the industry, on the residential side, we see a level of demand in housing that is only rising due to the growth of the population at large. So our first chart here is an example of what the median home prices here in the United States have done ever since 1954. The areas that are vertically shaded are periods of recession. And if you compare any 10-year period to what the stock market has done, you will see that real estate has outperformed most other investment and asset classes. The green line is the numbers adjusted for CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And then the blue line is not adjusted, it's the median home price. And so where you see us as about a year ago, 2024, the home prices nationally are right around $425,000. Keep rolling. Okay. Once again, another chart. This one is 20 years that elapsed between 2003 and 2023. From 03 to 06, you see we gained, and then we had a little dip in the market, which you can look at as a loss or a prime time to invest. And then you see that asset class more than double as far as the home values over the past 20 years. And we'll talk about this further. The market may be experiencing some pullbacks in some areas, depending on where you all are. However, statistics show that as opposed to looking at it as a detriment, look at it as a prime time to buy, especially with the programs that we're going to tell you about, as well as incentives that many builders are offering to entice people to get off the sideline and purchase. This chart here was conducted. This was a study conducted by Fannie Mae, and it was speaking about the national. It's a national housing survey, and it asked renters and current homeowners what they expected prices to do over the next 12 months. Speaking about the year 2025, and it shows that the renters expected the home prices and rental prices to increase by 6%. They expect the home prices to increase by 1.9%. So if you are looking to be a landlord and you want to gain some rental properties, this chart shows that your average retail renter, they're expecting to pay more for rent than they did last year. And when we start to look at the margin between a market that may be correcting or pulling back some and rental prices that are only increasing, that provides an opportunity for medical professionals such as yourself to be able to leverage assets and increase the cash flow that you may be able to obtain, no matter what type of property that it is that you decide to buy. This next chart is the same survey, but it demonstrates the percentage of individuals who were surveyed that believe rental prices will go up. So as you see here on that far right-hand side, back in January of this year, we have 65% of individuals who were surveyed that are expecting their rent to increase. You have 25 who thought it would stay the same, and then just a minute 10% that expect those rental prices to go down. So based off of what people are getting from mainstream media, the conversations they're having on a day-to-day basis, their brains are primed for them to pay more in rent, which presents an opportunity for individuals who may be looking to leverage their assets in that way. This last chart here, it just shows the year-over-year increase in home prices and the expected mortgage rates as far as the spread that's available. But once again, home prices are increasing much more than the mortgage rates are. So there's still some opportunity to leverage investments. And if you think I'm moving too quickly, we will send this presentation to you all so that you have this data as well as the references to review for yourself. So this next part, we're going to discuss some mortgage and loan options, as well as an example of some specific pricing for healthcare professionals. Jazz.
All right, so there are a lot of exclusive loan programs for healthcare professionals. You have some for physicians, which you pay 100, you don't have to put any down payment down. Also no PMI. And PMI is something that goes towards your monthly payment. So that means your monthly payment can be cheaper than the average home buyer because that payment that you would have to pay every month is eliminated for physicians. As well as for pharmacists, we just got news today that one of our preferred lenders have a 90 percent financing for pharmacists. Now that's included in the doctor loan program. So that's exciting news. At first, they were not including pharmacists as doctors, but they are now. So we are excited. The next person on the list, of course, we just need to get our doctors of nurses included on that list as well. So obviously, some people fighting on our behalf to get us the loan programs that we deserve. As far as understanding interest rates, there's a lot of factors that influence the rate that you do get, such as your credit score, what type of loan type, and of course, the market conditions. Right now, what we've been seeing in the market is about high sixes, low 7% interest rates for buying your property, buying your first time home or your primary home. It is a little bit higher interest rates when you start going into the investment loans, such as the DSCR loans, hard money lending, commercial loans, and pay stub loans. Justin, what type of rate are you seeing with commercial um, loans that people are taking out to buy some commercial properties?
I've seen I've seen as low right now, lately as 6.5%, and I've seen as high as about 8.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Most recently, we had a buyer for a medical office building over there in Buckhead. I believe he got financing from a local credit union at, I believe, 7.5%. So it was about a $3 million loan. I'm sorry, it was a $2 million loan, $3 million property, $2 million loan. You put down 1 million, but I believe it was 7.5%.
Okay. Okay, so right around what we're seeing for homes too. So that's something good to know as well, especially if you are thinking about investing into real estate, it may be a better opportunity, or just kind of pair up the opportunities between, hey, should I start my residential portfolio or should I start my commercial portfolio? Because right now, as you can see, the rates are about the same to get started in both aspects. Next. So right here, I always shop around for loan programs. And I would say this is probably, I know I can speak on the residential side. All lenders are not created equally. So instead of doing the online shopping, I do recommend you partner with real estate agents who do have their pulse on the market to see what lenders can accommodate your needs because every buyer is different. You are particularly different from your mom or your best friend who bought a property, and we help you partner up with different loan officers to tailor to your specific needs. So you can go up to three different, I recommend three lenders. Of course, you can go up to five without it looking a little fishy on your credit report. So just make sure that you are shopping around, seeing who is willing to work for you, and just seeing what programs and opportunities are available for you. Because investing in real estate is something you want to be careful with. And especially if you are financing the property, you want to make sure the person that you are working with has the best program for you to capitalize on your return. They also have some physician loans for new construction as well. And of course, we can dive into that if you are interested in that product. Understanding interest rates for buying your primary property, you can do rate buy downs. So what that means is you give a lump sum of money. So for an example, you can give $5,000 to buy down the rate. So if you're not happy with that 7% that we say that we've been seeing, or even like the 6.5%, it is opportunity to buy it down to like a low 6 or to a high 5. So make sure that you are exploring that opportunity, especially if you do have some free money to play around with. If the seller is paying closing costs for you, maybe you want to use the closing costs that you had saved up to buy down their rate for a cheaper monthly payment. Next. So leveraging your first home for future investments. So we have some second home investments, how to qualify and expand your real estate portfolio. I meet a lot of people who want to get into the house hacking way of investing, which is buying a duplex, staying in one side, renting out the other, and then, progressing from there, buying a quadplex, or just keep buying duplexes until they start eventually paying for themselves. But you can also, if you didn't have the luxury of finding a duplex in your area, you can also, utilize your primary property too. And after so many years of staying in your primary property, you will be able to qualify for some of those first-time home buyer programs, such as the 100% financing for physicians and also that 90% financing for pharmacists as well. You can also pull out money from your home through HELOCs and home equity loans to buy different properties. So you can either buy more residential or you can go into the commercial space as well with those funds. So definitely speaking with a real estate agent to see what is the best approach and your financial advisor. Justin, have you been seeing many people pull money out of their properties to buy commercial properties?
To buy other commercial properties?
Yes.
Um, yes and no. So that's actually one of the things that I try to educate, clients on is I'm sure you've heard of a sell leaseback potentially. Have you heard that term? So a lot of times we have a lot of clinicians or a lot of healthcare providers who are sitting on prime real estate and they do a sell leaseback where they unlock the capital of their real estate to then purchase maybe another location or expand their practice somewhere else. So in a way that's similar to the residential world, in the healthcare space, a lot of clinicians who have been practicing for 20, 30 years, sometimes they'll do a sell leaseback and sell that property or sell that real estate to an investor to free up that cash to then go buy, another location or expand their practice or do a satellite location or something like that. So we do see it. It's not often, but we do see it.
Okay, okay. So as long as you're seeing it out there, that means it is going on.
Right.
Just so many different ways to get into real estate, so many different ways to, like they would say, skin a cat. Um, Knowing how to pull money out of your properties, knowing how to leverage, knowing how to move and shake in this industry is everything. But what's more important is making sure you have the correct guidance in this whole process. So, Leanne, I know before we were just trying to read the room and just see who we have here. Are any of you all in healthcare? Hey, Joshua.
Hi, how you doing?
Are you in the healthcare field?
No, I'm in the life insurance industry, but I teach people how to leverage life insurance to buy real estate. So, yeah, listening on what you guys have going on. Actually connected with Jaquon. We're working on something as well. So I just want to hear what you guys got going on. I'd love to learn from you guys. Yes.
Okay, okay, sounds good. Leanne, you said a family member is a nurse. What area is she located in, Leanne? Also, Zanaya, is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, travel nurse. So definitely, I see a lot of travel nurses right now. Like statistics are out that travel nurses are buying up real estate. um, they're making a little bit more money than your typical nurse, so they are trying to figure out ways. I worked with at least 3 different travel nurses this past year, and they are very savvy, very willing to invest in commercial and residential real estate. Because I think right now the number one goal is to come up with this retirement plan, trying to figure out, hey, I love being in healthcare, but how can I retire? What avenues do I want to be in? How can I start my practice somewhere buying commercial real estate? I do see a lot of nurses and travel nurses opening up spa clinics as well. So that is one avenue too that you can do, leveraging your primary home to start that investment, taking out a business loan, and just so many opportunities in this space to get started.
Yes. And it's interesting you say spas because I was at a networking event last night and actually connected with a young lady who has the largest community of healthcare professionals that are opening spas. She's helped 66 people open up spas, and most of them came from the healthcare background, but she's opening up spas around the nation. So, um, if anybody on the call is interested in that, I would love to pass you her information along and help you out in that way as well.
Yeah. And Justin, are you seeing many people doing spa spaces in the commercials?
Yeah, spas, med spas, all that's very hot right now.
Mhm.
Very scalable. Um, and the beautiful thing about those spas is that they typically don't require a really large build out.
There you go.
So in a way, if you're a landlord and a tenant comes and they want to be a med spa, it'd be great for you because you don't really have to do much. They just need space. I mean, they have their business operations, they're ready to go, but you just need to provide space. So it's not a lot that a landlord has to put out to entice them, but they just need an open concept.
Yeah.
That is good to know. Got my wheels spinning. Got my wheels spinning for sure. So a lot of people want to know what's the cost. Okay, invest in real estate. How much money do I need? What's the ideal situation for me? Of course, all of that depends on the area and your goal. But right here, we're just showing one of our clients who was a dentist, who still is a dentist on their own practice, but they wanted to start investing in residential real estate as well. So right here, they took out a conventional loan for a 30-year term. And like we said, the interest rates for some of the investment properties is about 7.5%. And that's exactly what they got. The purchase price was 210,000, but they only took out a loan amount of 150,000. So they put down the cash from borrower was $69,867. And this included their down payment, which you can see that big difference between the purchase price and the loan amount, as well as their closing costs. Right here, their monthly payment with the principal and interest, the hazard insurance, as well as real estate taxes, is only about about $1,400. They are currently renting out their property for 28 to a corporation that's coming to the area, and this was in Montgomery, Alabama. So Meta is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, so they are needing spaces for renters. Their max, of course, the condo that they purchased was a 2 bed, 2 bath, but it was loft style, so it was very nice. They were able to get a renter to pay them $2,800. So just doing the math, and I'm pulling up my calculator. So just doing the math, they are charging $2,800. So minus, I'll just round it to 1,400. They're making an additional $1,400 a month on this property. Times 1,200, times 12, which is 12 months. That's about 16,800 a year that they can make. They hold this property for 3 years. They would have made 50,400 over the 3-year term. This is not including the money that they can get from write-offs for having an investment property, as well as, if they did want to switch this property to like an Airbnb or some short-term rental where they can get that 1,400 probably, twice a month. So that's just an example we wanted to show. As far as, okay, if I was to buy something, maybe my budget is about 210 for my first property, but with the 7.5% rate, of course you can have cash, and this cash can come from your 401k, retirement accounts. It can come from your property, like we talked about, pulling out money from your primary home, as well as if you wanted to get a gift from somebody. So people can gift you money for you to start your investments. All right.
Term.
So right now, we're gonna give the floor to Justin to, and Joshua said, or a life insurance policy. So you can pull money from life insurance policies as well to invest in real estate, which is, Joshua, I want you to come on in a second to just kind of share that as well, how that works. And Justin, if you can just share some information about leasing, about triple net leasings, and kind of what you're seeing in the market right now to help people start investing in commercial spaces, especially physicians who are, hey, should I rent or should I just go ahead and buy this property?
Okay, great. Yeah. So, so as far as the triple net leases is concerned, what I try to advise clients on is if you're a physician level provider and you have the passive income, it could be a great investment for you to come across buying some type of triple net investment. So what that means are, you have, companies like Wendy's or McDonald's or DaVita Dialysis. I mean, you think about your big companies, those typically are triple net leases, which means they typically lease the space and somebody else owns it. So what I try to tell people is like, well, if you're the owner of a property in which you have a triple net lease of, they call it mailbox money because that's a great cash flow opportunity for you to just sit and hold a property with a strong corporate grade tenant that pays income over the next 10, 20, 15 years. Now, you don't have to hold the investment for 10, 20, 15 years because the value that somebody has in a triple net lease is often seen in the lease and is also in the beginning of the lease. So for example, if you're a landlord, if you're a physician and you buy a vacant building, ideally what I try to tell clients is if you have a vacant building, your strategy should be to find you what I call some of the big corporate companies, because those guys are going to help you secure a triple net lease. to where if you're the investor and you own it, if you sell the property with them having a large bulk of that term left, you slap a cap rate on it. I mean, it's amazing what it can become when you look at the corporate grade tenants, you look at the structure, you look at the rent escalations. I mean, there's so many factors that go into the triple net status that if you're looking for investment in passive income, I don't think there's anything else out. I don't think there's anything else out there that actually can do it better than that type of investment. And I'm biased, probably even a little bit more than residential, only because of the way the leases are structured, to where if you do it right, you can have rent escalations, rent bumps, rent increases, renewal options that just help the lease have so much value that you as a landlord, you can sell at any point and sometimes often triple or quadruple your money. So I try to tell all my healthcare clients that if you all want to get into investments, stay in the triple net lane because there are a lot of healthcare triple net companies out there too. And if you're already in healthcare, it would make sense to kind of stay in the healthcare lane. So Aspen Dental, Stanton Optical, My Eye Lab, all those companies are out there and they're giving opportunities to where they're looking for space. And so I would advise anybody in the healthcare space to look for passive income in that regard. If you're a practicing physician, oftentimes your lease structure is probably a triple net lease too. So if you're paying that lease rate every month, you're benefiting the landlord and you're just a tenant. So I also try to tell clients, which is one of the reasons I got out of healthcare because I saw opportunity and ownership, was to say, well, if I'm the tenant and I'm paying a fee every month, well, why don't I just become the landlord? Why don't I buy a vacant building? Why don't I, have multiple suites to where I'm the main tenant and then I have other tenants that come in as well. So now I'm reaping the benefits of what my other tenants are paying, plus I own the property. So again, very similar to what I just said, if you own the property and you have that type of income stream coming in with those type of lease structures, if you do it right and you slap a cap rate on it, you're profiting as well as practicing. And so that's really what I want my clinician clients to understand is that you don't have to, be a slave to practicing all the time. I mean, there's ways you can leverage opportunities. You don't have to do this until you're, old and gray. I mean, you can literally leverage this thing, use your platform, use it as foundation, understand the game of how to leverage leases, lease structure, cap rates, and understanding that to where you'll look up and, 10, 15 years later, you've got your retirement already set because of strategic planning and understanding how the commercial real estate world works, especially when it comes to leasing. So my strategy, to answer your question directly, it's probably better for clinicians, in my opinion, to find investments that are within their lane because they already know the field, they already know the area. If you're working in that field and you want to become a landlord or an investor, find opportunities that allow you to get cash flow to where they're paying the lease, they're paying the lease rate, they're paying the insurance, they're paying the maintenance, they're paying everything, and you're just collecting essentially, and you're letting that property value increase over time. So there's a lot of leverage out there, and I've talked to just a lot of clinicians who just don't understand that. I think they understand that, well, if I have a lease, I want to sell the property when my lease is over. No, it's best to sell the lease when it first starts from an investment standpoint. That's when it's most valuable because any investor who goes out there and buys healthcare real estate, for example, it's most valuable in its beginning stages. If I'm a clinician and I go out there and I buy a property or I lease a property and I sign a 10-year lease, it literally is the most valuable that year. Because once that year passes 9, 8, 7, 6, it literally decreases in value. And so I just want clinicians to understand that you have tremendous value in signing long-term leases, especially if you're the landlord, because you can reap the benefits of full value in the market, a lower cap rate, which means higher value. So it takes some planning. And to your point earlier, if you have the right team, it can make sense. But there is a little bit of a learning curve that I just want at least a lot of our clinicians to understand, because I've talked to many of them, and I think they think that they're just going to practice forever. And there's ways to leverage the opportunities that you have to where it's not like that at all.
Can you give, I put it like this, when I found out what the actual owner of the property is actually responsible for in the triple net lease, I was very surprised. Can you give them more insight on what the burden is for the tenant versus what the actual owner of the property is doing? Like what costs does the owner actually have to carry?
So oftentimes in a triple net lease, for example, oftentimes it depends on how you structure it, but oftentimes the tenant will reimburse the landlord for possibly insurance or taxes. So oftentimes, if anything, when it comes to the individual utilities, the tenant pays for that. But when it comes to like taxes and insurance, the landlord essentially will upfront that cost on a yearly basis, and the tenant will be reimbursing. So if they're reimbursing that amount plus the profit, that's why they call it jokingly mailbox money, because you're making that money every month, you're getting reimbursed, and you're not doing anything else in terms of maintenance or upkeep. And so that's where I think it gets really flexible. Now, if you have different type of lease structures, it gets a little more complicated, especially if the maintenance is not covered by the triple net lease, to where now maybe you're doing the landscaping or you're doing exterior maintenance or painting and things of that nature. But if you structure the lease right, the tenant has that responsibility. And you as a landlord, for the most part, are probably safer because it's not in your control anymore. It's the tenant's responsibility, you know, and everybody's happy is typically how it works. So you just kind of want to make sure that like if you're structuring a lease like that as a landlord or an investor, you have the right pieces in place to where you're not worrying about some of those other things. You're not being called in the middle of the night, to fix something because that's the tenant's responsibility. And so, but again, I think it doesn't have a lot of risk when it comes to the smaller things. But again, if it's something major, then yeah, you do own the property. But a lot of those other things that typically could happen on a smaller scale, you're not really worrying about.
And then for people who may be wondering, once they purchase a property, when you say go find the big guys, is that their responsibility, or do you recommend them connecting with an agent like yourself, a broker, and allow
Yeah,
you to properly on their behalf?
yeah, a little bit of both. A broker can definitely engage in some of those big time clients who are looking for space. If you're a tenant rep, or even a landlord rep, you're out there, scouting the area, looking for those clients. And so, I guess it just depends on kind of the leverage and the connections you have. But if you're providing the right data and the right market analysis, you may be able to kind of pair that landlord who's looking for, the right tenant and kind of pair them together and help it. I had an example. I live over here in the Brookhaven area, and there was an old hardware store. I might have told you about this store, Jasmine, but there was an old hardware store that I saw that recently it was being torn down, and now there's going to be a Peachtree Immediate Care that's being built there. And so I started investigating a little bit, and what I noticed was that the person who owned the hardware store was just, John Doe. Just it seemed like it was an individual person who owned the hardware store. Well, years ago, the place had been vacant for so long that now Peachtree Immediate Care has come in, and now they're the tenant of that property, which means that John Doe was probably not making any money on this vacant building. Well, definitely wasn't making any money on this vacant building. Now Peachtree Immediate Care, a corporate grade tenant, has come in and essentially leased out the space. He still owns it, but they're leasing it out. And I remember saying to myself, whoever found that connection did right by the client, but now that client is really could possibly make some real good money because Peachtree Immediate Care clinics typically sign 10, 15, 20-year leases. And so if you do the math and if you crunch the math and you do all the numbers, the profit that individual can make could be huge just because they get a good quality tenant now. And so that's just a case where this person owned this abandoned hardware store and they had it for years. The tenant had left and it was vacant. And now all of a sudden you have something like that come in and take over. It's a recipe for a huge profit. And so so to me, that's the value of having something that's, it's vacant, or the client or the tenant's been gone, and then you put a good quality tenant in there, you do really well. You do really, really well.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Kelly?
So ideally, you want to find a vacant location. Is that what you would say? You want to find something that ideally there's not a tenant already inside the location, and you want to be able to find a better tenant, or is it okay if someone already has a tenant in a location?
So I think it's both. I'm a little biased because I think the vacant play is better because you have a lot more control at the beginning stage. If you go there and you find something that a tenant's already there, it's either twofold. Either you say you don't like the tenant, either you wait for them to leave and then you refill it, or you get something and you can do it right from the beginning. It just depends on your strategy. If it were me, I would do exactly like I described about that old hardware store. I would go out there and I'd find me an old vacant building. I'd put, maybe put some upkeep in it, kind of bring it up to speed, and I'd find me a good quality tenant, and then I'd sell that bad boy because to me, that's when it's most valuable. If it's a situation where like, if I'm healthcare and I want to find a good healthcare tenant and I've got, an insurance company in there, no offense, but if I have an insurance company in there, and let's just say, they've got 3 years left, I might just benefit from them for the next 3 years and then put maybe another tenant that I might find more valuable for maybe the next 10 years when I sell it. So I guess it depends on your strategy. I mean, if you look at some of the investment strategies out there, some people call them value adds. Some properties are called core or core plus. So I guess it just depends on where the value is that you see. But I think for me, because I'm so healthcare focused, I say healthcare is never going anywhere. So where can it be? Where can it strategically be? What's being built around it? What residential communities are coming? Like I try to look at it and say, like, yeah, if I bought this property here and it was, 2 years left on the lease for some other tenant, all right, I'll buy it, I'll hold it, I'll get the cash flow for that tenant. But I'm the moment it's over, I'm looking for another tenant because I know healthcare at minimum in today's industry is going to give me at least 10 years of a lease. So that's typically how I look at it.
In a situation like the hardware store,
Mhm.
do you typically see are are the terms of the lease where the owner will build to suit, or does the incoming tenant take care of all the remodeling or build out?
Man, that is that's a great question because it depends. Typically, in the case in that hardware store, I would bet that Peachtree Immediate Care probably paid for their improvements because the build out was extensive. So, but in the traditional sense, and that's the other thing you have to tell, that's the other thing you got to think about too, if you're an investor or a landlord, is do you have the dollars set aside to entice the right tenant? And that's a whole other conversation because because in my role, you got to kind of be honest with people when that happens because you say, well, look, I can help you find a tenant. I can help you find somebody that wants to be there 5, 7, 10 years. I can find you a great tenant. But the question becomes, are you going to have what they call the tenant improvement dollars to entice them to come in? Because if you don't, it gets a little tricky because in a way, the landlord has to say, okay, well, if I pay this amount, the tenant will be there, but I'll recoup it because now my property is worth that much more. That's how the landlord looks at it. The tenant looks at it as it says, well, if I'm starting out my business or if I don't have that money yet, how can I afford those improvement dollars? So it just depends on who you're. That's why I think the corporate clients are better because they typically don't ask for improvement allowance because they know they're going to put the money in for the build out because they're going to be there for about 10, 15 years. And they'll recoup the money like that because that's just the way their system works. You typically see the battle between who's paying for tenant improvement in those smaller businesses who may not have the capital up front, or a landlord who doesn't have the capital, who may not be as sophisticated as maybe a larger landlord. So, but it is a very important question that I think that we have to ask ourselves in our role very early on, because I've been burned by it, and I have found that there are doctors out there who have empty space, or say they have a multi-tenant building and they're operating out of one, and they want somebody to be in their other space, but they don't have the dollars to entice somebody. And so that gets a little tricky. And I don't think people understand that. So especially when it comes to certain healthcare specialties like dentistry, for example, dentistry, they need certain water lines, certain space, certain like there's so many specifics that come with certain type of healthcare industries that it becomes way more expensive than just maybe an optometrist or a chiropractor. Those are a little easier because they're just space and they bring in their equipment. But when you're talking about surgery centers or dental clinics or even veterinarian spaces, they get a little more pricey. And if the landlord doesn't want to pay for it, they potentially don't. Now, sometimes what landlords will do is they'll take out a loan to pay for those tenant improvements, and they'll make sure that they structure it to where they get recouped, or they take out a loan knowing it's going to help the property value, sell it, and then pay it off. So it just depends on how the sophistication level of who you're dealing with. But the question comes up a lot, and you have to just kind of be honest in the beginning, because the whole goal is that if you want to sell the property, we have to get you some cash flow in there.
Thank you for that. I got some ideas I want to bounce off for you.
Well, I will say I don't believe it's hard, and I say that relatively because it is pretty straightforward, but it takes some risk, and that's real estate. It does take some risk, but I just feel comfortable because the healthcare space is so passionate because it's so strong. Like I just there's really no other field out there that's in my opinion, as stable as healthcare. I just, retail maybe that's not going anywhere, but healthcare, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, like where's it going? So it's stable. It's here to stay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think when you look at the macro factors, the demographics of our nation, the number of people that are boomers that are aging out that need health care,
Hmm.
they're having babies,
Hmm.
care. But
And I
the
think,
strength
mhm,
of the insurance industry that make money off of healthcare,
mhm.
I think you spot on with that for sure.
If you're a landlord or you have capital and you want to deploy it into a building, you're 9 times out of 10 going to get a tenant at least for 5 or 7 years. And if you do it right, that's a really good time frame. Now, granted, you can get 10 plus as well, but and then even too, real quick, when you think about a healthcare provider, whether they're more so when they're individual, not a corporate guy, because those corporate guys are, they're just different. But if you're looking like a dentist or a chiropractor, somebody who's, looking to start a practice, I mean, you're typically not going to see about 3 years because most landlords, it's too short. So you're going to get long-term tenants because they're trying to build a practice and they're trying to grow something. So the logic would be, why would I do 3 years if my practice is booming at year two? So the logic is I want to be there long term. I don't want to have to leave if I'm building a practice or building a brand. So that's why I say healthcare is what they call sticky. It's a really sticky tenant. Like they're not going anywhere. They're stable. They're consistent. It's a great investment opportunity if you're a landlord or investor in the healthcare space.
Okay.
And also too, I just want to kind of say, hey, being in ownership matters. That's the thing I heard, the golden ticket I heard right now from what you were saying, Dr. Kelly, is ownership matters. I know when we were doing the conference, the Boss Doctor conference, that was one question that came up. Hey, should I lease out my space or should I buy it? When you do have so many tools at your fingertips just coming out of school, coming out of medical school to purchase the property, people will be throwing money at you because they know you're about to make it and they know that you can make it back. So just knowing how to leverage your rights as a physician is everything. Knowing how to leverage your rights as a human being who has access to capital. Um, and like we said before, just making sure that you are partnering with a great team who cares about you and don't really just, that's not selfish, that wants to spend that time to educate you. Because like you were saying, Dr. Kelly, it is a risk. So is investing in the stock market. So is not taking a risk is a risk. So it's also investing in your 401k, which is the stock market. Everything you do as far as investments is a risk. So just making sure that you're educated about whatever role or whatever avenue you take is everything. So that's why we're here today. To just make sure that you have a good team behind you.
Let me also just add this real quick. I just thought about this real quick. That property that I told you about that we sold recently in the Buckhead area. I don't know if I told you, but we sold it to another doctor who was leasing out of space, and he was spending $30,000 a month in a lease. It's $3 million a year. He bought the building for $3 million. So automatically, so he buys a building, automatic. So now he's not a tenant anymore. He buys a building in the heart of Buckhead. He bought it for what he's paying a year, right? So he's in ownership now, and the property is only going to go up. So for him, it was a situation of like, I don't want to be a tenant anymore. I'm throwing away money, which was a lot for a lease, by the way. I don't know how that happened, but to buy a property like that, I mean, it's a better long-term investment. And I think the reason people lease for whatever reason is because sometimes they don't want to be tied to something and they don't see the long-term trajectory of it. But if you find those doctors out there who do get it, you want to latch on to him because his strategy is, I'm going to buy this property for $3 million. I'm going to practice out of it. I'm going to grow. That property could be 5 times that in the next 5 years, and he owns it. Or he could sell the property, reap the cash flow, and still practice there. I mean, and then there's tax advantages. I mean, so there's so many things with the ownership piece that you just will never have in the tenant world ever.
And
Um,
same thing. I feel like we see the same thing with residential real estate as well. Um, People are scared. people are scared to bet on themselves, and people are afraid of commitment. So purchasing properties, whether it's your primary home, whether it's investment properties, commercial space, people are just afraid, but it's nothing to be afraid about. The same way you got in, you can get out. Kind of like what we, really just kind of tailor our service to our clients is we are here to educate you. We're going to give you all the different ways, help you and guide you through that decision that you make, and also just make sure that you have the resources to succeed. Whether you listen or not, that's a whole nother story, but you do have those tools and resources at your fingertips. I'm pretty sure working with any of us on that call. So just making sure that you are not afraid or letting fear hold you back from making a smart investment for you and your family.
Very well said. So we're gonna get back into the presentation real quick, and then we're gonna go into the how real estate can be a retirement avenue. And then Josh, if you don't mind, we'll get some insight from anything you may have to add from that. Okay. So creating a portfolio of owning multiple properties ensures continuous income and equity growth, whether it's commercial or residential, excuse me. Real estate will provide a reliable supplement to a traditional retirement account. Most notably, what most people think about is a 401k. So say for instance, I'm working a job and I want to replace my income of $250,000 a year. I'm 35 years old. Or I'm 25 years old. I'm starting out at the beginning of my journey. You could purchase one property a year for 10 years at an average price of $250,000 a piece with 15-year mortgages and have some long-term wealth growth. If you are getting a conventional loan and you have an average disposable income of $25,000 a year, you could use that 25K to be that 10% down payment for each of those properties. I get a 15-year mortgage, get those properties rented out. And by age 50, I have 10 debt-free assets that are generating passive income. But the sweet part about that is my net worth has increased to $3.5 million, as well as I have that passive income of $250K a year. And our key takeaway from that is that real estate provides financial security and some early retirement opportunities. So once again, this is on the residential side, but there are definitely opportunities on that commercial side as well to possibly even reach this point in a quicker avenue. Jazz, you want to take this one? Or?
Yeah, so with real estate versus the 401k and stocks, I feel like we did kind of hit on that a little bit. All of it is a risk. But with real estate, at least you have cash flow. You can leverage by using other people's money to get your asset. Versus a stock, if the Apple stock is $100, you pay $100 and now you got the Apple stock. Versus with a home that's $250,000, just going from that example, you can potentially get that with no money down, or just only be responsible for the closing costs, which is your only fee that you'll have to pay up front. And then you can start making that cash flow and passive income with real estate, as well as all of the other tax benefits such as depreciation. You write off your mortgage interest and deductions, some rental expenses as well that you can write off. Of course, we're not accountants, so make sure that you do talk to your accountant as far as what exact benefits that you can take advantage of. Also, 1031 exchanges. Most of the times you do see that in the commercial space, where you can buy something that's similar with the profit that you made from selling one of your properties. Of course, there is a lot of rules and stipulations on that as well. So we can dive into that deeper with a personal consult just to see what type of advantages you can take in that avenue of the 1031 exchange.
And tax
Right.
benefit.
Hmm?
Go ahead.
Right here is just kind of just more tax benefits and with rental and commercial properties. So the depreciation, mortgage interest, property tax deductions, and of course the 1031 exchange, just deferring your capital gains taxes, which does cost a lot of people a lot of tax dollars if they aren't aware that this exists. So not having a good team to help you with your purchases and your sales, that does matter, just making sure that you have somebody familiar with this process. Did anybody have any questions about any of these? Or, okay.
All right.
And we can kind of go through this, just kind of go to the next slides on this one, or you want to say something about it, Jaquon?
It's just a different way to look at it. Horizontal income is pretty much passive and business based. Some examples include stocks, owning another business, side hustle, or generating rental income from a commercial or residential property, and then a social security that most people pay into and get at age 65. So you want to have a multitude of income streams to bolster your long-term financial stability. Then when we talk vertical income, that's your salary or your hourly job, and it is limited by your time. You only have so many hours in a day. So when you think about it vertically, it is only so much you can earn, no matter what the job is, in a single day. Real estate generates passive income through rental properties, allowing you to have those long-term leases like we just spoke about. You know you have that stable cash flow, especially when I have a strong tenant in place. Short-term rentals can offer a higher income potential, but it does subject you to more risk. That market can be more volatile, just depending on seasonality and other aspects that may come suddenly. Multifamily and commercial investments allow you to access increased revenue from having multiple tenants. You're able to multiply the amount of income you're generating off of a single purchase. You can invest in REITs or look into some seller financing options. A REIT allows you to have hands-off investing through a real estate fund. And then we have some individuals who like to look into house hacking. Right now in Atlanta, in major markets, this can be a little more expensive as opposed to looking in smaller markets such as Montgomery or various places that we serve in Alabama, simply because the higher prices that come with owning a multifamily. And house hacking involves purchasing a multifamily property, you living in one unit and then renting out the other ones to leverage that income to pay for whatever your cost may be.
What's your opinion on a rap method?
On a wrap,
Yeah, a rap.
you cut out on me.
Yeah, with a wrap mortgage, like being able to buy someone else's interest rate and be able to start paying from their interest rate. Like, what is your opinion on that, rather than just doing a different strategy?
And certain HPV-related cancers can start then too. For most people, HPV clears its own.
Thank you. Welcome. Wraps, they definitely fit certain situations. Especially if you have properties that you know are appreciating and you really want to get into a certain area, or you want to use it as your primary residence. It definitely allows you to save some money on a month-to-month basis. I just recently purchased a property through a very similar strategy where I took over took over payments, got access to a 2.5 interest rate. Instead of having to pay the market rate of 6.5, 6 3/4. So if you can access someone's lower interest rate, especially with the market that we just left out of in the past 5 years, I definitely think it's worth having that conversation, but making sure that you have all details discussed. Many times with pursuing a seller finance, you may have certain stipulations. I know, for instance, like with what they call a contract for deed, some of the structures of those products, if you're signing that contract, if you miss one payment or you go past a certain date without making a payment, there are some clauses that may you just lose everything. So the ownership reverts completely back to whoever that seller is, and the buyer is not able to recoup any of those funds. So I think it's in those situations that there are many advantages, but you want to make sure whatever document you're signing, you have a full working knowledge of what the mechanics are if things don't go as expected. Um, Anybody else have anything to add to that, Jazz or Dr. Kelly? Okay. All right. So the question of the hour, how do you get started? Um, First thing we always say is to partner with an agent who has knowledge of what your goals are, who's experienced in the industry. You get market knowledge on what's the best areas to invest in, how to park your money, where negotiation skills to secure the best deals. Many times solid agents are going to have a pulse of what's coming to market or are able to secure you off market deals. For busy professionals such as yourselves, you're able to leverage your time and attention to what your main priority is, which very may well be your main career, being a medical professional, and allow the agent to handle paperwork, to analyze deals, and to handle all negotiations on your behalf without you having to be involved with every minute detail. And then working with an agent allows you to secure mortgage options and connections by allowing us to partner you with financial professionals who may have programs that fit your specific needs. And so, us personally, Jasmine and I, the services that we offer first-time homebuyer consultations. Um, we love to help new buyers enter the market. We've purchased our first home November 2020, and we just recently purchased our second primary, quote unquote, primary residence this year. We're also a part of we have some ownership interest in a 22-unit apartment complex. So we enjoy helping people conduct investment property analysis as well. So we can help you find the high yield properties. We offer 1031 exchange guidance. And we have tax professionals that can show you what advantages lie there. And then we have a great individual, Dr. Kelly, who can give you some commercial property expertise. Like he spoke about many times, these are higher return opportunities. If you are someone who say, hey, I want to purchase a property, but I'm not interested in doing any work. I don't want to have to reno. I don't want to have to swing a paintbrush or a hammer. We find you turnkey properties, and we have a team that can handle any renovations that may be required. So once it gets to your possession, it'll be ready to rent. Anybody had anything to add or any questions about that? All right. Some objections to avoid. Jazz, you want to take this one?
So we kind of just discussed some of them. Don't be in fear. Real estate, of course, if it's not something that you grew up around, it can be a little scary, but once you learn it, just like you learn everything else. Some people say, hey, it's not enough time. I don't have time to buy investment properties and manage these tenants and check on these leases. I barely have time for what I have right now. Um, it goes back to, hey, what's your goals? What's your 5-year goals? What's your retirement plans? And you make time for things that's important for you. Also, with a great team, we do have access to people who do manage leases for you, as well as property management companies too for your residential properties. Real estate agents aren't trustworthy. Some people feel like, hey, I don't want to work with an agent. I would say interview your agents. Find the ones who are educating people, who are spending time making sure that you know the ins and outs. Those are the people that you want to work with, kind of like us. We're here now, taking time out of our day to do free webinars to just make sure that you are educated on different opportunities in the market. Too much risk is in every investment. It's a lot of risk in investing your 401k. The company can go out of business. All the companies in the stock market can go out of business, especially with all the things that's going on right now. You just don't know what's stable and what's not. So, of course, at least with real estate, it's something that's tangible that you can actually touch and use and be creative with doing. No one to help manage. Like I said, just different property management companies we can pair you with. And some people like, hey, I don't have enough money to invest in real estate. That's for people who got money. That's for the super wealthy. No, this is a way to build wealth. So just like Dr. Kelly, Jaquon, and I were saying, and also Joshua, just saying, hey, it is so many ways where you can find money to invest in real estate. You just have to have that patience and have that great team to help.
So why invest in real estate? Like we spoke about, just reviewing what we discussed, the potential for passive income. You can earn income, mailbox money without daily management through a number of different ways that suit your risk tolerance. And it gives you financial stability. Um, you have that access to appreciation, which allows for wealth building. Property values, as we've shown you, um, historically have increased over time. And then your equity grows with each mortgage payment that you make. You're able to leverage via financing, whether that's programs that lenders offer catered to medical professionals or exploring some creative financing, such as seller financing, wrap financing, etc. Borrowing money allows you to purchase high value assets, excuse me, and most of the time, going this route has a much smaller down payment that allows you to control this large investment. And then the tax advantages and the hedge against inflation. You are able to deduct things such as your mortgage interest. If you are purchasing rehab properties, you can deduct improvements and things like that. And then the ability to claim depreciation on the property can reduce your taxable income. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you. If you want to schedule a consultation, you can scan this QR code, and this is our contact info. We truly appreciate this time we're able to share with you.
Dr. Kelly and Josh, if y'all want to put your information in the chat as well. Like Jaquan said, when we first started, we will be sending out this webinar along with the PowerPoint so you all can go back and review it. It was a few people that registered that was not able to make it either. So just making sure that you share with your family and friends as well who have been on the fence about investing. The physicians in your family, like Leanne is doing, she's in here with one of her family members is a nurse right now. And she's here just sitting in on just to kind of share that opportunity. So just spread the knowledge. That's what we're here for, to make sure that you are educated so you can take advantage to these opportunities to help you retire early through real estate.
Yeah, and I invited Josh. I actually had a consultation with him about his business earlier today. He provides life insurance, but he's actually in a space where he educates you how to use some tax deferred capital um, and pull from a life insurance policy that's existing to borrow against it, not have to pay taxes, and be able to purchase assets such as real estate. So, Josh, if you want to hop on, you can speak, or if y'all want to just,
Yes.
Absolutely. Sorry if it's a little loud. I'm actually out of the vent right now, but happy to join in. Thank you, Doctor. I know I'm a little late, but appreciate you sharing that knowledge. But as far as what I do essentially is you only have two options out there to buy things. Either you're going to pay cash or you're going to finance it. Those are the only two options that you have in life. And essentially what I teach people how to do is the second you put your money into a bank, they're lending your money out and charging people interest to borrow your money. So essentially with real estate and how this coordinates with real estate and insurance is if you had the cash to pay for your investment property, you deplete your cash. Now your cash is tied into that real estate investment until it brings you back a ROI. Essentially what you can do is you can put that money into a life insurance policy and it's going to immediately start growing equity. It starts growing equity, same thing like a HELOC, you have the ability to leverage against that equity. The only difference is with life insurance is there's no payback term. So unlike a HELOC where you still have to make those payments, you don't have to do that with a life insurance policy. You pull the equity out of it, you're using OPM, so you're using the life insurance company's money, while your money is still safe in that life insurance policy, growing tax-free dividends and interest. So for example purposes, if you had $100,000 and you put that $100,000 to a life insurance policy, your LTV is 95%. So you can loan about 95% of that value. And as you do that, you go use the life insurance company's money to buy that real estate. You're still receiving dividends and interest on your gross. So you just leveraged out 90,000 to go buy an investment property, but you're still receiving these dividend and interest on 100,000. So that 100,000 is continuing to accumulate tax-free dividends and interest for you, while your real estate is bringing you back an ROI. That ROI that you have from your real estate, you're going to now go put that back into your policy, and now it increases your leveraging power tax-free as well. So now you're just going to continue to rinse and cycle and just continue repeating this process over and over. Now you have your real estate and you have the equity within the life insurance policy. Now let's say 10 years go by and you either decide to sell that real estate or refinance it. Well, guess what? You still have that asset in your life insurance policy because you're still receiving dividends and interest on that gross amount. So even after you sell that real estate investment, essentially you're still receiving dividends and interest on that amount, even though you already sold the real estate property. And on top of it, it is life insurance. So there's a death benefit that's attached to it. So if something were to happen to one of your spouses, well, that death benefit is going to be essentially that mortgage protection for you. They'll be able to cover that mortgage if something were to happen to you. So really quickly, that's essentially what I teach people how to do. And just creative financing. You're essentially taking the lender out of the situation. And now you're the banker, you're the borrower, and you're the lender. So you're choosing the terms of how you want to structure this, as well as, like you guys were saying, it does turn into a supplement retirement account. It's not tied to the market. So when the market goes down, your money's still safe within that policy, and it's going to continue to grow tax deferred, meaning if you take a policy loan out, it's tax free, but you have the ability to do a withdrawal as well. They give you the ability to do both. In most cases, my investors wait to make those policy loan payments back. They wait for the ROI, the cash flow of that real estate. And essentially, you never have to pay the loan back. And one of the benefits of taking a policy loan out, it doesn't show up on a DTI report. So if you take a policy loan and you go buy a real estate property, you can still go take a loan out from a bank because it doesn't show up as debt. So essentially, you can almost double dip if you essentially want to do that. Still paying interest to someone, but just gives you another strategy to be able to put in your toolbox.
That's awesome. Not affecting my DTI.
Yeah, it's a really cool strategy. Not a lot of people know about it. A lot of people think about life insurance and they just think about protecting someone once they're dead. But there's a lot of tax benefits by using a life insurance policy to fund your investments. Because essentially you're still growing that capital while you're still collecting your rental income. You're still doing exactly what you essentially would do. It's just now you have an asset that's protected. That's your defense. Everyone always thinks of offensively and they miss out on the defense that they need as well. This is the safest place where you can store your capital. And while it's storing it, it's also still growing tax-free. Anywhere from 5 to 7% dividends and interest growth tax-free. And then the policy loan rate is 4.89. So you're able to leverage the life insurance capital at 4.89%, while your capital is growing at 5 to 7%. So if you really want to take it for points, you could be earning an extra 3% points on your capital, while your real estate is the real ROI. Still rental income, you're still doing all that. Just now you have this cash that's actually going for you as well. There's another asset from the same amount of cash that you were originally going to spend anyways.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Kelly, you have any,
Yeah,
closing
absolutely.
anything?
No, I think very insightful, very informative, and I think we're all on the same page. So
Yeah.
then we got some great advice here tonight.
Let's definitely connect, Dr. Kelly. I definitely have some people that I think would be good for you to connect with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. For everyone who's watching this after the fact, thank you all for sitting and watching it. If you do have any questions or concerns and want to go ahead and schedule your first consultation, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, guys. You have a good night.
Thank you, Leanne.